You all, I'd like to call the finance meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move to approval of meeting minutes from October 31st. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is single health choices agreement discussion. Jack.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners, for having us here. And in addition to myself, you have your other appointed board representatives to the Cumberland Behavioral Health Collaborative to explain two different topics. We scheduled this to give you an explanation about a recommendation from the State Department of Human Services to change the contracting structure for health choices. And that's really pretty straightforward, although because of health choices by its nature is kind of complicated, I recommend that we discuss it in this session so that we could have a thorough discussion. And then since we scheduled that late last week, Friday afternoon to be exact, we heard about a proposed change in the bylaws for the Capital Area Behavioral Health Collaborative that Dauphin County is working for. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to provide an overview of that. But we'll start with Department of Human Services recommendation for a single contract. And these PowerPoint slides, I want to give credit where credit is due. Scott Cern, the Chief Executive Officer of CABHC, put these together for all the counties to use in explaining this change. And I believe I gave you in advance a complete copy of his PowerPoint slides, which are numerous and detailed. I thought I would present the Reader's Digest version.
So this is a bridge.
Yes, that's, well, I think, no, the one attached to that would be the longer one. But yeah, this is.
So the second handout's the bridge.
That's one that we're going to be using. He just drilled down a little deeper than I think we needed to. But that is there for your information. So just a little bit of background, health choices. It's the behavioral health program that we manage. That's mental health and drug and alcohol treatment services. And our program provides services for 80% of the MA recipients in our two-county areas, and 97% of the MA recipients with mental health or substance abuse issues. The other 20% are covered by the state's fee-for-service program. So we don't cover all MA recipients in the two-county area, but we cover the vast majority. If you recall, in the history of this program, the state gave counties the right of first opportunity to manage behavioral health services back when we began in 2001. And Cumberland County, along with the 4 other counties we teamed up with, Perry, Dauphin, Lancaster, and Lebanon, all opted to accept that right of first opportunity and to manage the program as a collaborative. And in order to do that, we created the Capital Area Behavioral Health Collaborative Incorporated, a nonprofit corporation for the sole purpose of managing the program on behalf of the 5 counties. Just a little bit about the program and the scope. In calendar year 2017, there were over 263,000 residents, medical assistance recipients in the 5-county area that were covered through the program. And of those that were covered, almost 50,000, 49.5, received one or more behavioral health services, drug and alcohol or substance abuse. And some received both. That's why those two numbers, the 10,400 for drug and alcohol and the 43,200 for mental illness, don't equal the 49 because some have received both mental health and substance abuse services. In terms of dollar amounts, 2017, a total of $41.8 million were spent on drug and alcohol treatment, $174 million on treatment for mental illness. All of that is state and federal dollars. None of that is county general fund dollars.
Yes, the entire 5 counties.
That's the 5 counties, yeah. And next we have Cumberland County specific. So in Cumberland County, in 2017, at one point or another, there were 38,000 residents who were covered by MA. That may be misleading. You'll see in slides later on that when we take a snapshot of how many people are on MA on any given day, it's going to be lower than 38,000. Because some people are eligible for MA for a month, for a couple of weeks, for a few months, and so it varies. The membership is always vacillating. But at one point in time or another, there were 38,000 covered, and of those, 7,200 received behavioral health services, 1,400 drug and alcohol, 6,300 mental illness, and in terms of claims, 5.4 million spent on drug and alcohol treatment, 23.5 million on mental health treatment. What's significant about that is that that's certainly more money than we spend here with county managed funds for drug and alcohol treatment. And I would venture it's more money than mental health spends as well. And so the whole reason we were given the right of first opportunity is we manage the county funds, and it's logical for us to have a role in managing these funds as well, so they complement one another and they don't compete with one another. I thought you might be interested in the similar data for Perry County. And so here it is, 9,000 residents covered, 1,600 receiving behavioral health services, 1.2 million in drug and alcohol treatment, 5.2 million almost in mental health treatment. Any questions about that much? That's pretty much just reviewing the scope of the program. It is a very large program and very, very beneficial. If you recall, it was made even larger 3 years ago with Pennsylvania's decision to opt into medical assistance expansion. And I've shared many times that's been a godsend from my perspective, because prior to that, we would always run out of money with county managed funds midway through the fiscal year. And we would have to place a freeze on the more expensive types of treatment placements. That hasn't been the case since we've been involved in medical assistance expansion. So the current management of the program was set up from the beginning. We actually established CABHC back in 1999, a couple of years before the program was launched. The program was launched in January of 2001. There were several years of planning going into this, because this was a big deal. It was accepting a brand new responsibility, and a responsibility that came with a risk. Basically, we were saying we're prepared to manage these programs like an insurance company with a risk involved. Here's the interesting thing. At the time that we started the program, the state was strongly encouraging counties to collaborate with one another, to team up with one another instead of going it alone. And part of that is because of the risk factor. The rule of thumb that was used back then is that if you didn't have 30,000 medical assistance recipients in the county, then you might not have a large enough pool to spread the risk across. And so, with the exception of the largest counties, Philadelphia and Allegheny County, most counties didn't have 30,000 medical assistance recipients back in 1999. And so they were encouraging us to team up, which we did, but at the same time, they were insisting that there be separate contracts with each county. We wanted to operate the program as a single program, pool of funds. And they said you can do that but we're going to contract with each county separately. So from its inception, there's been a separate contract between Cumberland County and DHS, and also separate contracts for the other 4 counties with DHS. And it's operated fine, but there's been a lot of duplication. Linda could probably speak best to how the money flows, but I think the money gets wired in.
Money goes to each individual county. Each individual county is told by CABHC how much money we should send to them for medical claims and for administration. So we have to wire that money out, and then some of it stays here for the county to be able to use towards expenditures here. So that means, and then 5 reports. I do a report for Cumberland and Perry, the other 3 counties do reports quarterly, and then she has to do 5 reports at CABHC to submit to the state.
And 5 sets of audits.
5 sets of audits.
So it's that structure demanded a certain administrative work to follow, reporting and auditing. But what we did by design from the beginning is that we did manage the program as a single program so that we could fully realize the benefits of pulling the risk of all of those medical assistance recipients. And we did that by setting up an intergovernmental cooperative agreement between the 5 counties. And that allowed us to select a single behavioral health managed care company, not CABHC, but it's currently Perform Care, to do the day-to-day operations of managing the program. So we have acted like it's a single agreement, but we have not had a single agreement since the start. Some other things to remind you of, and we'll go into this in a lot of detail in the second presentation. The county commissioners appoint the board of directors of CABHC. Each county appoints 2 directors, 1 mental health rep, 1 drug and alcohol rep. The board makes the decisions. CABHC has, across time, gathered the resources to cover the risk on behalf of the counties. When we first started the program, we had to select a managed care partner who could cover the risk. Our partner back then was Health America. And they did cover the risk, but it had a considerable cost, understandably. But across time, because the program was financially successful, we were able to generate reserves. And currently, we have $13.2 million in equity, $32.8 million in our risk and contingency fund, and then we purchased an insolvency bond in the amount of just under $35 million as protections, so that there would never be a possibility that any of the 5 counties involved in this would be at any risk. Medical claims, as I mentioned, are managed collectively. We pull, and over the years, we've seen that in any given year, the rates are set by county, and the rates for one county may turn out to be inadequate. There have been, in any given year, Cumberland County could run a deficit, but there are other counties that have a surplus, and so it doesn't matter. What matters is collectively, are we in a surplus or a deficit? And that has varied from year to year. There are years that Cumberland has a surplus, and will help cover a deficit in Dauphin County, for example. It's, again, was the design of the program from the get-go, that we would spread the risk across all areas. We also have separate legal counsel from Overmeyer, Redmond, Maxwell, and Hippel to look at all contracts related to health choices. You probably recall that whenever I do present a health choices contract, there's often an advisory letter from Lawrence Davis, our current attorney from that group. And so I mentioned the intergovernmental cooperative agreement. And that allows us to have a single contract between the 5 counties to perform care and to operate as a single program. We still have the counties entering separate contracts with CABHC though. And this is just an iteration of some of the things we'll all mention. Any questions about that? You may get a sense of why I wanted a separate opportunity to talk about it. I feel like we're in the weeds, but that's the nature of the organizational structure of this program. So, Department of Human Services recommendation, 20 years ago they said you have to have separate contracts with each county. Now they're saying, you know what, there's a lot of overlap here, a lot of waste, we think there should be a single contract. And they did make a change a few years back that allowed for that. But we have another contract cycle coming up with them, another 5-year contract cycle coming up next July 1, 2019. And so they pitched us, how about with this next contract, you guys consider going to a single contract? And the idea would be that instead of holding separate contracts with each county, the contract would be with CABHC on behalf of all 5 counties. And then the cash flow would go directly to CABHC. The funding for our administrative expenses would flow from CABHC to us as opposed to the other direction the way it currently does. And it would greatly simplify the required fiscal reporting and auditing requirements. This is the current contractual arrangement. Department of Human Services has contracts with each of the 5 counties. Each of the 5 counties has a contract with CABHC, but each of the 5 counties also has an have entered into a joint intergovernmental cooperative agreement that allows us to have a single contract with Perform Care. This is a chart of how it would be different. DHS contracts directly with CABHC, who contracts directly with Perform Care on behalf of the 5 counties. CABHC contracts with each of the 5 counties. Implicit in that is that the bylaws of the board remains the same. That the counties continue to control CABHC. CABHC is your corporation. You're being collectively the 5 counties. So, well, let me stop at that and again check and see if there's any questions. It seems logical to us. It seemed like a simplification, that there would not be any loss, and there would be some administrative savings as a result. So I wanted to present it to you, but I think as we've discussed it, we're inclined to think that it makes sense to do this. And some of the counties, commissioners have already considered this and have given their thumbs up to it. I know that Lancaster and Lebanon County have. And I did have a chance to speak to the Perry County commissioners, and they're inclined to do this as well. So if we do this, they've given us a lot of lead time because reorganizing the contracts, I guess, is not a simple matter for the state. But the first step is that they would want some written indication of an intent to move from separate contracts to a single contract. And that could be done with a letter of intent. And I think in this more lengthy package, I included a draft letter of intent that could be signed by Vince on behalf of the board of commissioners, if you're okay with doing this. And then other work would proceed from that. There would need to be an updated and amended county intergovernmental agreement to reflect this new arrangement. And that would have to happen prior to February 1st. In order for everything to be, all the ducks to be in a row for a contract change going July 1st. So that was the original reason for coming here, to just get into the detail of explaining that, along with our recommendation that it appears to be a good decision, a good choice to do that. Any questions on that before we
The
go?
only question I have is, so we currently have a contract with Perform Care between the county and that provider.
Well, it's through the intergovernmental cooperative agreement, so it's one contract that all 5 sets of county commissioners sign. And they're the ones who do the daily operation. If you need to get treatment authorized, they will authorize the treatment. They manage the provider network. They do all of those things. And CABHC watches over them, basically, monitors their performance and monitors the fiscal stability of the program.
Right, so this would, I mean, the recommendation is that essentially us having to, instead of us having to do that individual contract with Perform Care, that we would just, CABHC would take care of the management,
Yeah. There would be
the administrative.
there would be a single contract that would be with CABHC. And CABHC would hold the contract with the state on behalf of all 5 counties, and it would also hold the contract with Perform Care to do the day-to-day. So that would be the change.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it. The only question I would, if there was ever an issue that we had with Perform Care, we would have to rely on CABHC to deal with the issue because it would no longer be our responsibility. We're no longer our.
In practice, Jim, that's what we do now, is that because here's the current arrangement. We do, through this cooperative agreement, have a direct contract with Perform Care, but we're just one of 5 counties. And so if we have an issue with Perform Care, well, there's a lot of ways you can work it out directly. They have a grievance procedure, they have an appeal procedure. And we have staff who sit on the various working committees. And so we have ongoing input in working with them. But if we had a major issue, we would enlist the help of Scott Suring and his staff to resolve it. Scott is the CEO of CABHC. Because that's what he's there for. He fights battles on our behalf. He knows.
So you said earlier that essentially there's a duplication in administrative function currently. And this would help to eliminate.
Yeah. Instead of 5 sets of money flow and fiscal reports and audits, we cut that out of one.
And we already take part of our money through CABHC and move it over into medical claims now. Like the administrative portion that the state gives CABHC, or us as the 5 counties, part of that money is moved over into medical claims so we can pay for more services for our individuals as opposed to it going into administration.
Yeah, one of the, I don't have the details of that, but one of the more successful components of our health services program, and I think there are many aspects of it that are very successful. I actually think this is, in my career, one of the most productive projects that I've ever been involved in. But we have quite systematically over the years reduced the administrative overhead for this program. Early on, it was higher because we were paying somebody else to cover the risk. As we were able to accumulate the funds to cover our own risk, we could also reduce the amount of money that was going to admin costs. And I see that as a good measure of administrative efficiencies. So are we ready for part 2?
Yes.
The Friday surprise. We received a phone call. I think we got several calls. Annie got a call and I got a call from one of our counterparts, Dan Eisenhower. who is the MHID administrator for Dauphin County. And he's also the chair of the CABHC board. Annie and I serve along with Dan and two others on the executive committee for CABHC. And he wanted to give us a heads up about a proposal that the Dauphin County Commissioners are wanting to put forth. In their process of vetting this idea of going to a single contract, their attorney for human services decided that it would be a good time to take a look back at the CABHC bylaws, to review those and see whether there was a need for any changes. And presumably as a result of that review, they decided that there was a need for some changes. So some background on this: the bylaws have been around since February 2nd, 2000. That's when the CABHC board adopted the bylaws. The bylaws were also included as part of the intergovernmental cooperative agreement that the 5 counties all agreed to, and which joined us into a regional approach. That ICA was effective January 8th, 2001, which represented the official start date of our 5-county program. So they've been around for a long time. We've been operating under these bylaws for over 18 years. And they haven't changed. Well, I shouldn't say that. There have been slight changes in the fiscal year and some matters, but there has been no change to the voting structure in the time that the bylaws have been in place. And here's what they call for. As I mentioned, each county appoints 2 representatives. As a reminder, your 2 representatives are Linda as the mental health representative and me as your drug and alcohol representative. We had recommended that you also appoint alternates, so that if I can't go to a meeting, or Linda can't go to a meeting, there's an alternate rep. Annie is the alternate mental health rep, and Ryan is the alternate drug and alcohol rep. So we're well covered in that regard. Perry County is the opposite. In Perry County, Annie is the primary mental health rep, Ryan is the primary drug and alcohol rep, and Linda and I are the alternates. So it's just a flip from Perry County. So that gives us 4 of the 10 seats on the board collectively between our 2 counties. And here's the current voting structure. There was and has been from the beginning a weighted voting structure, giving slightly more weight to the 2 larger counties, larger in terms of the number of medical assistance recipients. Lancaster and Dauphin, each of their votes counts for 3, whereas the other 3 counties, each of the votes count for 2. Okay?
No, just don't understand. So you're saying for your vote, it's 2.
It's 2.
For Dauphin County vote,
For Dan
for
Eisenhower's
one
vote,
person,
it's
it's
3.
counts as 3.
Yes.
Okay, all right, now I got it.
And so there's a total of 24. Another equally important part of that, though, just explanation, the greater weight was given to them because of the number of MA lives. Here's that monthly snapshot that I was telling you. If you look at any point in time, how many medical assistance recipients, Cumberland County, the latest count we had from September of this year, 29.3. Dauphin 63 plus, Lancaster 83 plus, Lebanon 25 plus, Perry County is about 7,000. So you can see that Dauphin and Lancaster do have many more lives, and that was the original rationale why their vote should carry a little bit more weight. But an equally important part of it is that decisions are not based on a majority. You must have a 66% amount. And that 66% was chosen quite deliberately because that would require 18 votes. That 18 votes provides protections in a couple different directions. One is that the 2 largest counties can't overrule the 3 smaller counties. If you add their votes together, it only comes to 12. It's not enough overall. By the same token, the 3 smaller counties can't overrule the 2 larger counties. The same calculation. If you add the 6 votes from the 3 smaller counties with the weighted value, it's still only 12. So it was designed to encourage consensus in decisions. So only ideas or actions that can gather consensus and general agreement, sort of a supermajority, if you will pass.
Jack, so maybe at this point it'd be good to ask you, so what, you said that, the supermajority for decisions, what kind of decisions are we talking
Well, we can make decisions on whether or not to raise rates for providers. We make decisions on, we'll soon be making a decision on whether to continue contracting with Perform Care for the next 5-year cycle or not. The bylaws spell out.
Individual contracts then, or is that?
If contracts are above a certain amount, it requires board approval. And so there are a number of contracts that require annual approval on behalf of the board. Decisions about investment, use of reinvestment dollars must be approved by the board. I can pass along the bylaws, the current bylaws, which go into details on the kinds of decisions that.
What I'm trying to understand is, why this weighted, voting structure needs to exist at all. I understand the issue with respect to, okay, they have more medical assistance folks that are getting mental health and/or drug and alcohol treatment services. But I'm trying to understand why would there be, unless we're talking about there's certain interests out there.
Well, it was linked to the number of lives, but also, I guess, the revenue, because revenue is connected to those lives. The way the program is funded is based on your medical assistance membership. We get funded much like an insurance company does. There's a per member, per month rate that we receive for each medical assistance member. And so when you'll see in the slides that are coming up, when you look at the revenue to fund a 5-county program, about 70% of the revenue is for those 2 counties, Dauphin and Rochester County. And so it's not just the lives, but it's also the funding connected to those lives. And they felt that they should have slightly more authority and weight to their vote as a result. But it's not a proportionate amount by any means, because if we were to do that, it would be, it would be a much greater difference. If you think about it, they're 70%, and if their weight were representing 70%, it would be a much, even their proposal isn't strictly based on proportion. So that's the current structure.
So would this affect then how much revenue is available, to the individual counties for these services?
No, it doesn't affect revenue. All that would happen is now the revenue flows through each county. CABHC gets it, puts it all together, manages it collectively. Now it will flow directly to CABHC, and it will flow in one stream. It will be combined to begin with, and it will continue to be managed collectively.
No, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to understand this doesn't impact at all, then if we have a need, we have, you know, somebody who's on medical assistance, they will, you know, be served.
Right. Yes.
And they're not cutting the funding off, you know, to Cumberland County through this supermajority.
They could never do that in either the current arrangement or the new arrangement.
I'm just trying to understand what the basis and rationale is for this change, but I'll stop asking questions and let you finish your presentation.
Well, it is the key question is why do we want it? So, but again,
Okay.
we're jumping ahead. So,
I will point out that medical assistance is an entitlement. So once somebody qualifies for MA, you have to provide services for them. That's why it's a risk-bearing program. We have to provide services for them, whether we have the money to cover that or not. That's why we have to have funds in risk reserve, because it is an entitlement program. So here's the Dauphin County proposal. They're saying, we think that there should be a change that is more reflective of the revenue of each of the counties in this 5-county program. And so they took a look at the revenue from the last 2 fiscal years. And this shows you the relative amount. This is the average, 89 million, Lancaster, 68 million, Dauphin, 31 million, Lebanon, 30 million, Cumberland, 6 million for, it gives you a very good idea of the total scope of this program, 225 million plus with a 5-county area. And it shows you the relative percentage. And this is where I said, if you put these two together, they currently represent 70% of the revenue, 39.7 and 30.2 for Lancaster and Dauphin respectively. And then you see our, and so that's the sole rationale. Now they also looked at membership, and they said membership is pretty much reflects the same thing. And so they used that to come up with a new voting structure that they're planning to propose. And this will be the new voting structure, the new weighted structure for votes. Perry County would still have, each of their votes would still be worth 2, and everybody else's would increase relative to the amount of funding that they have in the 5-county program compared to Perry. So Cumberland's votes would now be worth 3 each, as would Lebanon's. The Dauphin counties would be 5 each, and Lancaster would be 6 each. And so there would be much greater weight to the votes of the 2 larger counties, if you will. Again, whenever I say larger, it's a reference to the number of medical assistance recipients, not the overall population. That's only part of it. That alone gives them much more weight and authority. But the other change that they're proposing is that the 66% requirement be dropped, and that in the future decisions be made based on a simple majority. So this is a typo. It's a total of 38 votes. You would need just 20 out of 38 to pass any action. And they've described this as they want to seek a balance of revenue, membership, majority, and minority votes. That's one way that they describe it.
to absorb all of this.
My words, just the messenger. There are some obvious things to point out with this, and that is that with 22 votes between them, Dauphin and Lancaster could, at any point in time, outweigh the other 3 counties in making a decision. The other 3 counties would not be able to pass any type of decision unless Dauphin or Lancaster agreed with it. Dauphin or Lancaster could team up with any two of the smaller counties to reach that number 20 that they needed to pass it. But the bottom line is that both parts of this proposal, the reweighting of the votes and the moving away from the supermajority to a simple majority, result in much greater power for Dauphin and Lancaster County and lesser power for Cumberland, Perry, and Lebanon counties.
Jack, what's wrong with the current structure?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We seldom have split votes. When there are split votes, they're oftentimes it's based on a single member's philosophical beliefs on something. And if you have a split vote, it's not going to pass. I don't know that we've ever had an item. I can count on one hand the times that a motion has not passed because we were not able to get 66%
Do
majority.
you remember what that issue was, or?
I only remember one, because I was part of the camp that was opposing it. And it was a recommendation at the time to raise provider rates. And I and some of the other board members felt that the timing was wrong because we had just gotten some financial data that suggested that our rates might not be adequate for the year that we were just starting. That we have an actuary who keeps us on track, and he looks at the claims each month and he compares them to historical patterns in prior years. And at this point in time, they're saying the claims are way up. They're trending up. And my argument and others were, it's not a good time to raise rates.
Okay.
We want to wait, we should wait and see a few more months before we do that. And we argued successfully. And so the motion to raise the rates was defeated. And we did decide to be more prudent and wait. And it was a good thing that we did, because that negative trend continued. That was one of the few years that we actually had a deficit in our program. Again, we had the risk reserves covered, so we were fine. But it worked out well.
Again, I was just trying to get an idea as to those
Kinds of
matters that
decisions.
might come before the collaborative that, whether there's a disagreement or whatever,
So the way Dan Eisenhower communicated that to us and said that he wanted to make sure we all knew about it because the plan, as I understand it, was that Commissioner Jeff Hayes, as the chair of the Dauphin County Commissioners, was going to reach out to the other sets of county commissioners and communicate this proposal.
Make us an offer we can't refuse.
I guess. And so I don't know that if he's had a chance to do that yet.
Haven't heard a word from him.
No.
Is this current structure, is it hurting Dauphin County? Is it hurting Lancaster County? Do you
I don't
know where
believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe it is. Our fellow board members have not indicated that. And I think this is more a proposal coming from the solicitor who reviewed the bylaws at Dauphin County and the commissioners themselves. We had not heard any dissatisfaction from our counterparts from Lancaster County or Dauphin County. It really does operate in a very collaborative way. The executive committee is 5 members, one from each county. So each county has a voice on the executive committee. The chairperson is Dan Eisenhower. He's been the chairperson for does a remarkable job. I'm very grateful that he's in that position. As such, he represents Dauphin County's interests quite effectively. They're certainly well represented by him. And the other board member is Robin Skiles, who is my counterpart, the drug and alcohol industry.
Jack, can you envision any decisions that may be out on the horizon that would explain this current interest in being able to steamroller other members?
I cannot think of anything, Carol, that is likely to come before us.
Everything's proposed for a reason, and I hate to be cynical, but we've seen this movie before, and the ending has never been in Cumberland County. And the most recent episode this makes me think of is the proposal a number of years back for a regional asset district tax. So there was going to be this, overlay district and sales tax charge, and then you would go for regional projects. And we were not to worry because the safeguard was built in that it would take a supermajority to agree that monies could be moved from one county to another. However, if you looked at the proposal, it allowed a simple majority to basically drop that safeguard. Yeah.
That's a nice little trapdoor, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, luckily, a number of us were astutely attuned to that, and I think we avoided some significant problems as a result. So I'm just speaking very candidly here. This doesn't occur in a vacuum. So there's something that they want.
Well, we will be making a decision about whether or not to continue with Perform Care, our current managed care partner. There's been no indications, and again, we've been doing that in a very collaborative fashion with all counties represented, and there's been no indication from Dauphin County that they would have a different opinion from what's.
How many other entities are out there that would, if you have a decision on continuing the contract or going out for another vendor or another provider or whatever, there are a lot of other.
Not a lot of other, maybe there might be a pool of 3 others, or possibly 4.
Okay. Well, I have to kind of echo what Gary's saying. This makes me very suspicious. I don't understand if we're, Gary and I both served on the Capital Region Council of Governments, and it doesn't matter how big you are, every municipality gets 1 vote, okay? Seems to work out pretty well, seems to be fair. I don't quite understand why, this is so important, especially if it's supposed to be a cooperative agreement. I mean, why would you want to set up a situation where, you have, a couple of the entities involved here that have the ability to shove a decision down everybody else's throat? Let me ask you this question. So, bylaws and this organization of the collaborative, is there a way, if we wanted to, that we could go it alone? And essentially, let me ask you this.
Bylaws have a provision for any county to pull out of the collaborative. I don't have a good command of what the details are of that, but generally, it's written in such a way to discourage that, because we want the collaborative to have a sound base.
We lose the efficiencies with fewer members.
You lose the efficiencies, you increase your administrative overhead, you increase your risk as well.
So could you have 3, the 3 smalls be their own collaborative, and let the 2s go do whatever they want with each other?
Possibly.
Still,
The way the bylaws are written, though, I think that if anybody leaves, they leave behind the risk reserve funds. And so they would have to start over.
it sounds familiar to me.
Sounds like
Well, here, the only way the bylaws can be changed is through a vote of the current CABC board. And that vote if Dauphin County and Lancaster County were able to persuade one of the other smaller counties to vote along with them. And it may come up. I do feel compelled to mention that this PowerPoint I put together based on my conversation and email exchanges with Dan, because it wasn't presented in a cogent, nice package. And so it's my understanding, maybe there's some additional rationale that the Dauphin County Commissioners have that they will include when they present this to their corresponding boards and commissioners. So I do want to put that caveat, that this is my understanding of the proposal.
Well, I have no doubt you captured as accurately as what was presented to you, and this is very helpful for us to fully understand the impacts of what's being requested. It'll be very interesting to see what form the proposal comes to us in, to see if there are additional factors in there and how they're presented. And that has to happen relatively soon.
Well, it does, in my opinion, because
Did you have an impression that it was just going to be a verbal request from Dauphin County, or were they going to actually provide a formalized proposal?
I got the impression verbal, but that didn't seem to make sense to me, because
Your instincts are correct.
who would make a decision based on it? Let me tell you about this, Vince. Let me tell you about this good idea that we have. I think
They know they only gotta get
everybody would
one.
want to see the details.
They know they only got to get one of the three counties, so.
Yeah. We meet monthly as a board, and our next board meeting is November 19th, just in a week or so. And I think if they're going to proceed with this, they would want to put a proposal, would want to advance a proposal at that board meeting. And so I suspect that you will hear from them soon if they're going to put it forward. I think timing is a factor because, again, presumably this came up as part of them looking at that first question that I presented. Do we want to move, does Dauphin County want to move from 5 separate contracts to a single contract? And my understanding is they said, yes, we do, but at the same time, we want more control over CAB&C with the contract between them. And so their agreement to that may be contingent upon this. And I'm a little bit stuck on what should we do? What should Cumberland County do? What should Perry County do in terms of?
You said
that first-
they would hold the single contract hostage to getting a better.
They could.
Okay.
What my understanding is, what the state has said is that all 5 counties must agree to go to a single contract, or else it cannot be done.
So they have a veto. Every one of us has a veto.
Yes, so you have a veto, but also Dauphin County. So they could say, we'll only do this under these terms. But Cumberland County could also say the opposite. We'll only do this under the condition that CAB&C bylaws remain the same. So it's going to affect the timing, or at least the Department of Human Services, the state's preferred timing of getting letters of intent from the 5 counties to go to a single contract.
Just so I have to look at this very practically. So if this doesn't sound kosher to us, we don't necessarily have to gain the approval of the other 3 smalls to stop this. We can simply hold our vote hostage on the single contract,
On the single contract, right.
which unfortunately is the nuclear option. And it would be nice to have something in between, but this can't be jammed down our throats.
The single contract can.
Yeah, right. I mean, it'd be a shame to lose.
But the CAB&C board can, because even if we don't go to a single contract,
Yeah,
Dauphin County could put forth a proposal
to still change.
at any point in time. Any of the counties could put forth a proposal to change the voting structure at CAB&C. And if they got the supermajority, and I'm assuming if the Lancaster County Commissioners looking at this would say, well, that makes perfect sense, and would be in.
Well, again, I don't understand, I don't understand the need for this. I mean, it's kind of like,
They don't want you to.
no, and that's why I'm suspicious about it. It's, I mean, you know, right now, Dauphin County has more population than we do, but and who knows from year to year, maybe we'll end up with more MA, cases in the next couple of years, So why would you set a structure that essentially is going to change, potentially the makeup? Because the board, generally speaking, there's been problems. Why do you want to do this? And that's why.
Just the opposite, as I mentioned early on, in any given year, there's been one or two counties that have been running a deficit, and the other counties covered it. Dauphin County has benefited in certain years when they have run a deficit, and other counties' surpluses have covered them. Now they've taken their turn of being the surplus county too, so the collaborative has worked very well, the way it was intended to spread the risk out.
Well, if every board is reasonable, the current structure is good, but if your approach to the world is what's mine is mine and what's yours is negotiable, then you would want to have more control.
Have you checked with the other, they need 66% or whatever to do this? Does that mean they could that be?
Could be any, and it could be.
Under the current voting system, they need 66%.
They would need two other counties.
You need 16 votes, 24.
They would need, let's see, 6. And they would need more, they would need Lancaster County and one other county. And,
What, as far as Perry County goes, because our joint, right? The thing is essentially, do we know where the Perry County Commissioners stand on this? Have
they haven't taken an official position on it. I've had exchanges with their solicitor, Mr. Bunt, and with Brenda Bennett, the chairman of their commissioners, and they're not looking favorably on this proposal. Seeing why they would approve that.
Only one comment to that. We heard the exact same thing a number of years back when I first got here. Cumberland County was one of several counties that decided to get out of the 5-county tourism promotion bureau. And virtually everyone went out. Franklin dropped out, and we were second. Then Lebanon dropped out. Perry County was to be right behind us, but last minute they were compelled by some manner to remain aligned with Dauphin County. And candidly, I think Tri-County is to some degree the same way. I mean, I've heard a number of expressions from Perry County folks that they weren't happy with Tri-County any more than we were, and yet there they remain. So,
well, it would be a separate decision, and they will basically be that's probably the next slide. You tell us how to vote when this comes forward.
Well, I'd like to know where, Lancaster, Lebanon on this. I mean, you would assume Lancaster's going to look at it and say, yeah, we're fine with that.
I am.
But why would Lebanon County necessarily, want to? I don't know what it is that the game is. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
I think we're all kind of scratching our head on this with the timing and why put such a successful program in place. Putting forward
we benefit from a very collaborative and cooperative relationship in this, and this strikes me as really a knife at the heart of that, the basic cooperative.
Yeah.
So it's.
We will get more information. Annie and I will have an executive committee meeting next week. That always occurs a week before the board meeting. And we'll probably get a pretty good sense of where the other counties are.
Sounds like Lebanon would be the deciding county.
How about that?
It
Yeah.
could be.
But again, I can't imagine why it would be in their interest.
Right, exactly.
In our
I'm
interest.
just saying, you know, Lancaster, obviously, often Lancaster is from what it doesn't say yet.
I'm assuming that too, but I don't even know whether that's the case, but.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
If we give
There's
the
a piece of the
opportunity.
puzzle here that's missing. This makes no sense.
And really,
So
we just wanted.
This was initiated though by Dolphin, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The single contract idea was initiated by the state, two separate ideas. We agree with the single contract,
Right.
and then, but I kind of feel like we now have a fly in the ointment, is that the expression?
That's the point.
That it's kind of, because I thought, it's a pretty simple decision on a single contract, you know? And all of a sudden, there's this other.
But by the way,
other proposal.
There would be nothing to prevent us from offering our own proposal of one county, one vote.
Could have done that any time over the last 18 years.
If I were a small county, that'd be a very appealing.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it's the foundation of the Capital Region Council of Governments.
The interesting thing is that if we did that and the other small counties agreed to it, we wouldn't be able to pass it.
Right.
Because of the supervision.
We'd be
So
sure.
the, so
We
the current,
assume, we assume that, so.
yeah, so the,
Lancaster's.
in my mind, that shows that the current voting structure works.
Yeah.
It forces a strong consensus.
Correct.
So that nobody can force their will on anyone
That's
else.
what it intended. Now, we have no knowledge of where Lancaster stands on this. I mean,
We
the
don't.
assumption is that they may be for it because it strengthens their hand,
It's
but
purely an assumption, yes.
if
purely an
they,
assumption.
I mean, we know their commissioners down there pretty well. They all seem to be fine folks.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, if they understood the concerns of the smaller counties, I have to think they would take pause a little bit at least, so.
And we have no official idea of where Lebanon County stands with those items, so.
Well,
But you certainly could talk to your counterparts.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming that we may want to wait on a decision on the first question until we get more clarity on the second.
Fortunately, yes.
Even though they theoretically are separate, it seems to me that they've kind of gotten hooked together on this.
I think that's wise.
Very good.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll keep
Thank
you
you for
informed.
that. Is there any other business we need to